They say money can't buy happiness, but it can certainly build a wall. A wall that makes you feel invisible before you even walk through the gate. My father didn't have a luxury car. He had two wheels, a rusted frame, and a heart that carried the weight of the world just to keep me moving forward. I used to think the loudest sound in school was the bell. I was wrong. It was the whispers. Shame is a heavy backpack for a child to carry. It makes you look at the floor because you're afraid of what you'll see in their eyes. But while they were busy looking down on us, my father was busy building a foundation they could never understand. Every morning started the same way, the smell of coffee and the sound of a sizzling pan. A simple breakfast made by hands that never seemed to rest. My father would smile, as if the world was perfect, even when the mugs were chipped and the boots were worn. He didn't have much to give, but he gave me everything he had. I'd watch him lace up those old, battered boots that had walked 1,000 miles just so I wouldn't have to. We'd step out into our neighborhood, a place where everyone knew the value of a hard day's work. But as we walked, the world began to change. The houses grew taller, the fences grew shinier. Suddenly, we were surrounded by gleaming metal and leather seats. A world of luxury that looked at my father's bicycle and saw nothing. Entering those gates felt like entering a different planet. Groups of kids huddled together, clutching the latest tablets and bright new consoles. Their laughter felt like a barrier I couldn't cross. My father stood by the gate, watching me go with a look of quiet hope, even as the world turned its back. Inside the hallways, the whispers started again. Points, giggles, the sharp sting of being the other. I sat at my desk, my cheeks burning red, staring at a notebook that was as worn as my spirit. But then, a shadow fell across my desk. I looked up to see my teacher standing there. She didn't look at my tattered sleeves, she looked at me. With a gentle smile, she handed me a book. And for the first time, the coldness started to fade. The walk home was long, and my heart felt heavy. I found my father where I always did, in the dim light of his workshop. The sound of his hammer was a steady heartbeat. Sweat dripped from his brow as he carved and shaped the wood with a precision that only comes from years of struggle. He looked at his tools, then at his hands. Hands that were calloused and stained, but never shaken. I watched him count the few coins he had earned, placing them carefully into a small bowl. He looked at the meager pile, his face etched with a worry he tried to hide from me. But then he'd reach into an envelope, adding one more coin to a secret stash tucked away in a wooden drawer. He wasn't just saving money. He was saving my future, one drop of sweat at a time. While the world slept, our house remained awake under the soft glow of a single lamp. I sat at my desk, the books the teacher gave me spread out like a map to a new world. I worked until my eyes burned, driven by a silent promise to make his sacrifice worth it. Sometimes, sleep would take me before I could finish the page. I wouldn't wake up until I felt the rough, warm touch of a blanket being pulled over my shoulders. My father would stand there for a moment, looking at my work with a pride that didn't need words. The calendar pages turned, falling like leaves in the wind. Months became years. My clothes grew shorter, my books grew thicker, and my resolve grew harder. But as I grew stronger, I noticed my father growing tired. I saw his hands, the skin cracked, the permanent stains of a lifetime of labor. He was giving me his strength one day at a time until he had none left for himself. Dinner was often a quiet affair. We shared a simple bowl of soup, the steam rising between us like a thin veil. He would push the last piece of bread toward me, claiming he wasn't hungry. And I would eat it, knowing that every bite was a gift of his own vitality. I started to realize that every A+ on my paper was a brick in the house he was building for my future. I ran home the day the final grades came, clutching that paper like it was made of gold. When I showed him the excellent stamp, for a moment, the world stood still. I saw a single tear trace a path through the dust on his cheek. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The call came from the principal's office. I walked in, my old shoes echoing on the polished floor. But this time, I didn't look down. My teacher handed me the letter. Scholarship approved. I didn't see a ticket to a better life. I saw the thousands of hours my father spent over a workbench while his own dreams gathered dust. I burst into the workshop and just held him. I held the man who chose my future over his own comfort. In that embrace, I realized that wealth isn't what you have in the bank. It's what someone is willing to give up for you. Years later, I stand where he once dreamed I would. And I finally understand the lesson he was teaching me all along. Greatness isn't inherited, it's built. It's built in the dark, in the silence, and in the sacrifices no one ever sees. My father didn't just give me an education. He gave me a soul.